Yo guys, what the hell? Yo guys, what is this video? I'm reacting to Game Theory. Is a shield your best weapon in Assassin's Creed Valhalla? Alright. Game Theory made a new video. I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna react to it. That's what I thought, alright. But before we go to the video, check out that original video. If you don't, I might have to hit this on the side of your head. But we can talk about that. And without further ado, let's get into the video, alright? 3, 2, 1, let's get it.
Hello Internet,
welcome to Game Theory.
Show that dual-wield science and logic. Speaking of, that is our topic
Very
for today,
brutal weapons.
the gaming trope of dual wielding. You see, this episode is sponsored by Ubisoft and their newest installment in the Assassin's Creed franchise, Valhalla. Available November 10th, click the link in the description to check it out, which is Assassin's Creed, but now with Vikings. And I gotta admit, I'm excited to get my hands on this one, sponsorship or no. It really seems to be the perfect mix of what AC's been building up to all these years. You're setting sail in Viking longships. There's an upgradable settlement feature that serves as your home base. There's massive
I do like me some Vikings.
where you and the crew casually lay waste to huge fortresses, and of course, all the hidden blade action that this series began with. And again, did I mention?
I was trying to make the hidden blade. It's really hard to make, like in real life. Kill some people.
Sponsorship or no, Ubisoft, I do gotta knock you guys a bit. Odin is with us! Not really the inspiring or fear-inducing voice of a Viking that I was expecting there, guys.
Odin is with us!
To shade the voice actor or anything. Clearly, this is the direction that the creative team wanted, but for me, I'd think that you'd want to get some broken earth voice in there. That's theater talk for getting growly. You know, something like
like Batman.
Odin is with us. Just saying,
yes.
This is like one of the only game trailers in existence where we watch as the hero and his team get absolutely wrecked. And it's because our buddy Eivor over here ain't projecting with his diaphragm. Just saying. But what he lacks for in vocal
doesn't sound like true
support,
Viking.
Eivor makes up for in physical support. Eivor is unquestionably the strongest assassin that we've ever seen appear throughout this series. Throughout this game, Eivor will be dual wielding anything that he can get his hands on. And I do mean anything he gets his hands on, including
like
things like shields. This announcement was enough to get the internet in a tizzy with headline after headline about this. And so that is what I told
you can dual wield
Ubisoft
shields.
I wanted to talk
I was
about
gonna say
today's sponsored episode.
you can block with both and attack with both.
Wielding in games. It is super cool, but does it actually make sense? Like, just because you can do something, does it mean that you should? What is the history of dual wielding? Did anyone ever dual wield the way that we're seeing Eivor do in the game? And is there a world, any world in existence where using two shields would make sense? Because, I don't know, just want to know. Also, I'm going to be talking
offense
about
and defense.
decapitating people because that's something I saw in a Corey X Kenshin gameplay video and I thought it was funny. I took her head off. So now, let's get going, theorists.
I actually watched that video.
Odin is with us. See, it gets you motivated. Consider this my audition for the next game in the series. So let's start with some historical context, shall we? For those who aren't familiar, dual wielding is when you use two weapons, one in each hand.
If you don't know that yet, just click off the video, literally. Just click off.
Right? Not only do you look doubly cool on the battlefield,
doubly
you're also doubling your offensive capabilities. Right? Wrong. Think about it. You can only really be offensive with one arm, one weapon, or one side of your body at a time. Which means that even if you are equally effective at using a weapon on both sides of your body, which already is going to be taking a lot of training, half the time that part of your body is just going to be rendered useless, or at least less effective. It's not an efficient strategy, and in a battle for your life, efficiency matters. To boil it all down simply, battles are all about a balance
he's getting
of
wrecked.
offense and
I mean,
defense.
the guy's wearing
Coming up
full
with
steel,
solid
so I would
defenses
expect something
until
else.
it's the right time to strike, which is why throughout history, something used for offense, like an axe or a sword, is so often paired with something focused more around defense like any of a variety of different shield types. However, that's not to say that there's no historical evidence of dual wielding. Quite the contrary, in fact. If you only have a one-handed weapon, your other arm is entirely useless, and in most cases, nearly anything is better than just your fist. Heck, even something as simple as a
plunger
stick is going to provide better defense and longer offensive reach than
That's true,
just
because you
your
get more
arm.
range, and
And
it's
this
actually
is
harder
largely
than
what you see with the
you can
history of
smack it harder
dual
at least.
wielding. Most of the time, the technique was used for one-on-one duels with two different weapons, a longer sword for attacking and a short sword or dagger for defense. In fact, defensive daggers became so popular that the parrying dagger was designed with defense in mind, sporting advanced knuckle guards and cross guards. Turning our attention eastward, the Japanese in the medieval era
they use swords as defense.
sparingly than their
That's
European
weird. I'm not gonna lie.
An emphasis on horse archery combined with the unique benefits of the Japanese armor made handheld shields more of a hindrance to the movement than a defensive boost. It was during this time period that the samurai began carrying two different swords, the longer katana for battle and the shorter wakizashi for ritual purposes. However, some sword masters developed a two-sword fighting system using both of these blades. One of Japan's most famous swordsmen, Miyamoto Musashi, developed
that's my cousin,
a school of swordsmanship that loosely translates to two swords as one. Similar to European dueling, Nito Ichi utilizes the smaller wakizashi as a defensive weapon and the longer katana as the primary. So dual wielding has some historical precedent, but so far the emphasis has been on one
double shield though. Double shield.
Offensive weapon. What about what we see in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where we see
double
Eivor
offense
dual wielding two very similar looking axes? And quick side note here, yes, they are clearly different. One is bigger and heavier and would function as the defensive axe, while the other is lighter and probably meant to be the main attacking axe. But the differences between the two isn't likely to be significant enough to change our overall discussion on fighting strategy using two axes. So
you had to explain this. It's very important for the people who like fighting specialists.
Type of weapon, the Dimakairi class of Roman gladiator were specifically trained to use two curved scimitars called sikai. But this was entirely for the purpose of spectacle rather than tactical advantage.
It looks sick as hell.
Thailand's Krabi Krabong, which has a form called Dab Song Mue, which uses two swords, but in my research I wasn't able to find any historical examples of dual wielding axes specifically. That said, perhaps the closest example comes from ancient China and their weapon of the twin hook sword.
Oh my god,
remember,
Cabal!
Friends, there is no war in Ba Sing Se. But the curved ends of these swords would be used to trap a weapon or hook the back of a shield to pull it down, exposing your opponent for a solid attack
chop the head.
The second sword. And
that didn't penetrate his head, it just hit him directly with a metal steel pipe.
The guards were sharpened for slashing and punching. The tail was a sharpened short dagger. Certainly an advanced, but very, very cool and very, very deadly set of weapons. From a functional standpoint, Eivor's axes would be a much simpler version of this. The main advantage of the axe is the hook under the blade.
Yeah, so you can just grab it, pull it down.
The opponent's weapon or shield, pull it away, leaving the body exposed for the blow of the second axe, just like with the hook swords. That's the good news. The bad news is that axes are just glorified sticks with a heavier head, meaning their defensive abilities and overall reach are incredibly limited. So, could you dual wield axes? Sure, you could.
Yes.
Would you
Should
want
you?
to?
Nope.
Honestly, only in very limited situations where there's almost nothing else to use. And in the Valhalla trailer, Eivor is surrounded by abandoned
shields.
boss grip shields.
Exactly.
The grip is inside a protected knob in the middle of the shield. What he should be doing in this situation,
pick up the shield,
looking around with a lot of mood, is picking up the obvious complement to his offensive main weapon. That is, without question, the single best strategic move that he should be making in
pulls
this
out sword
moment.
with an
Which
axe.
then, of course, brings up our second question,
Double shield.
the shield question.
It looks so
He's picking up
stupid.
one, why doesn't he pick up two? Is there ever any reason to dual wield a shield? In my research, I
what is the reason to double wield shield?
historical
Double
examples of
the defense, that's pretty much
anyone
it.
ever
And
dual-wielding shields, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it never happened. Shields are super useful and are incredibly versatile defensive tools. But is there any practical reason to have more than one?
I don't see anything.
Probably not, unless you're in the rare circumstance of being attacked on both sides and are in
But the
desperate
thing is,
need of a hasty retreat. Sure, a shield can be used as a weapon like we see in the game. It's just not a good weapon. The benefit of axes and swords and lances and whatever aren't just the sharp stabby bits, so those are certainly perks. It's the fact that they're extending the effective lever of your arm, keeping you out of harm's way while substantially increasing the amount of damage that you can do. A shield, quite simply, isn't doing that. What's worse is that, as you just saw, the most effective the shield
just think like you stab somebody like that.
Its edge. If you think about why an arrow or a bullet works, they put all of the pressure on as
one little
small
area
of a point as they can, creating a single point of maximum impact. A shield does basically the exact opposite, spreading the force behind it as much as possible. This is great when you're defending and you want to dissipate the energy from an incoming attack, but when you're attacking, it just means that you're going to be making less of an impact over a larger surface area. If you have a single big shield, then yeah, maybe you can use both your hands to drive the furthest point of the shield into your opponent and do some damage that way.
I mean, but why'd you shield that big?
Both of your hands are on different shields, and your offensive ability effectively drops to 0. It is literally the opposite of what you want. But what if you had a hybrid weapon? What if you didn't just have a sword, but you had a sword and shield combo? They may just seem like a creation of fantasy games, but there is some historical documentation about shields
sword
with
and
spikes
shield
sticking out of them appearing during the Dark and Middle Ages. Most notably used used by the armies of William the Conqueror, these spiked shields tended to be round, thin, targe-styled shields with the boss of the shield equipped with a massive spike coming out of the center. And considering Assassin's Creed Valhalla takes place in 9th century England, there's definitely a chance Eivor
could have a shield,
come
okay.
across one of these bad boys in his journey. Fun fact, by the way, targe shields were used by English longbowmen for target practice. And
yeah,
that
I've used
is
one of
where
these.
the word target actually comes from. The more you know.
I knew that, yeah. I'm the one who named it.
More extreme with your
I don't
spiked
say anymore.
shields, there's the absolutely insane-looking lantern shield, which is like the Swiss Army knife.
What the
shield
what is that?
Equipped with not just shield breaker spikes,
The
but
hand,
all
got
sorts
it.
of Assassin's Creed-esque hidden blades popping out of every nook and cranny. This one was a bit late to be used by Eivor, coming straight out of the Italian Renaissance, but again, if you're looking for an offensive shield,
That
this
one looks
is
kinda...
probably going to be the best bet that you find in history, except again, there's a problem with all of these. How are you attacking? Sure, these things may be equipped toe-to-toe.
Oh, it's like, oh, wait, that's actually sick.
But unless you're charging headfirst into the enemy, leading them straight to a wall, or slamming the spikes down onto an opponent laying in the ground, you're not getting a lot of force behind your attack. From what I've read, the spiked shield was a short-lived trend in history, mostly related to the fact that it was a waste of resources.
Yeah, it's like all that shit.
The battlefield in the Valhalla trailer. Everyone is tightly packed, practically fighting on top of each other. Fighting during this era happened in tight masses of people, and the spikes were meant to control distance and angles from which an opponent could attack. But the spikes became a nuisance quickly in these sorts of battles, either getting in the way, getting caught on various objects, or just poking your allies in the back. So really, anyway,
damn, killing all the allies.
Just another instance of just because you can dual wield something or slap a bunch of spikes onto something, it doesn't mean that you should. Because here's the real fact of the matter, friends. Forget dual wielding, Eivor should be using ranged attacks for everything. As I mentioned before, in an early peek of the gameplay for Valhalla, YouTuber Corey X Kenshin captured this incredible moment.
Oh, throw your shield down, huh?
Bah.
Bet you wish you did.
Head
now.
came straight off.
I took her head off with an arrow.
My first thought was that there was no chance that this could ever be possible in real life, but then I saw
until you tried it on yourself.
ZBG Studios, short for Zombie Go Boom. The key to this decapitation was the arrowhead and the accuracy of the archer. Rather than aiming for the head, the archer aimed for the neck using a mechanical broadhead arrow. These types of arrows contain little winglets inside that expand upon contact with the target, spreading out to 2.5 inches wide, or 6.35 centimeters.
Oh, imagine, that's painful.
This extremely large
cutting
area is over half the size of an average neck, which is 4.77 inches.
You cut the middle, half, and then a core left, and then it falls because it can't support itself.
Plausible that a well-placed arrow to the neck could absolutely decapitate someone. I used to be a Viking like you, but then I took an arrow to the neck. Now, as you can imagine, that fancy type of expanding arrowhead wasn't used back in 9th century England.
Of course,
but
that too.
What was its ancestor? The basic broadhead arrow. You see, early Viking arrowheads used in battle were exactly the same types of arrows that they used in hunting. Flat, made of metal, and approximately 5 to 7 centimeters long, 5 centimeters wide, and with a barb on both sides.
About the size of my
organs,
in
the
body. Surprisingly small.
Went on, and armor became more sophisticated, new arrowhead types called bodkins were developed that were longer and narrower, losing the barbs and being designed instead to pierce through chainmail. But as you can see, the enemies Eivor is attacking in Valhalla, with a few exceptions, aren't all that heavily armored. In fact, here you can see his chest and neck fully exposed. Well, unlikely, it's certainly not implausible that with a big enough broadhead arrow and a strong enough bow, Eivor could do ye olde version of a boom headshot. I mean, the long and short of it is this. Sure, we've seen all the assassins perform nearly impossible acrobatics and show incredible ninja warrior-esque skills.
Jumping from a building, landing into a hay bale, takes away all the fall damage.
Heavy lifting of dual-wielding shields and war axes, or decapitating foes with a single arrow. Eivor is just next-level strong, and is unquestionably the strongest assassin that we've yet seen in the game.
Of course, look at him.
He doesn't have the most intimidating voice to match, which then begs the question, how does it all end? How do you stop a guy as strong as this? Well, the funny thing about Assassin's Creed,
bullet to the head?
we always have a cheat guide in the form of history. We know that the Viking raids across England caused monasteries to fortify their defenses and move inland away from the reach of the ship-based Vikings, but that wasn't everything. many historians also tie the arrival of the Christian church in the area to the end of the Viking raids, as the raids didn't keep up with the teachings of the church. And remind me again, who is the main antagonist of the Assassin's Creed series? Oh yeah, the Templars, the most wealthy and powerful of the Western Christian military orders. Looks like there may be no winning at the end of this game, considering that the only thing able to take down a man with the strength of a god is the power of the church itself. I guess we'll just have to find out.
Exactly, when the game comes out.
Click the link in the description to check it out. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. And one final thing.
So, as you can see, a double shield is a very stupid idea, alright? There's no reason for doing a double shield. What are you gonna do, double defense? You can't do offense because big surface area, of course, and less force. There's no point having double shields unless you want to look cool. I know you'd be like, oh, I have 2 boobies, haha. No. Double axes as well, you know, not effective. Apparently they use 2 swords. I mean, that's kind of weird. Having a small one and I don't know, okay? If you guys enjoyed the video, you know, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.